From Hollywood, it's Paranormal Tonight. I'm Mark Summers, and now, here's your host, Dan Harary.
Dan Harary, that's me. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Live from Hollywood. It's Paranormal Tonight. We are live tonight from beautiful downtown Beverly Hills, live in living color on NBC, if you remember that. I do. I'm going to get right to my guest tonight. She's a friend of mine, and here we go. Camille James Harman is an award-winning actress, film producer, and ET UFO experiencer. Her credits include the Oscar-winning film Vice. She played the role of Mary Madeline in that film. She was in a season 10 episode of Shameless. She starred in the Lifetime movie A Daughter's Deceit, and she's appeared in numerous films, web series, commercials, and music videos. She is a legitimate Hollywood actress. In December 1995, soon after moving to LA from New Orleans, Camille had her first UFO sighting. Abduction experiences followed. She underwent hypnosis sessions with Barbara Lamb and Yvonne Smith. I met with Yvonne Smith a month ago, and she hypnotized me as well, which revealed that she had undergone medical experiences with presumed aliens and human military members. And Camille also had some experiences with positive light beings of pure love, she calls them. Camille attended the 50th anniversary of the Roswell crash in 1997, and then a year later, she went to England to see crop circle, something I've never done, and I think I would like to do that. She was a contributing writer for UFO magazine from 2000 to 2004, which allowed her to meet many legendary UFO researchers and ufologists. Camille has presented talks at MUFON chapters in Orange County, California, Tucson, and Phoenix, has appeared as herself in several paranormal TV shows, and she was interviewed in the LA Times in 2001 about her UFO experiences, and we'll be talking about all those things. Camille, who lives in Los Angeles with her husband, astrologer and UFO experiencer Jeff Harman, is also a founding member of my group called the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. Race, can we show slide 1, please, before we bring in little Camille? Slide 1, if we have it. Or not. Race? Maybe not. I met Camille last year.
Say that again, Dan. What'd you say?
Oh, can we show slide 1? Slide 1.
Oh, yeah, of course we can. Yeah.
Sorry, I was probably garbling. There we go. All right. So this is little Camille at UFO Con, March 2023. I met her that weekend. Our booths were side by side with each other. And we became friends. And then I met her again a few months later at MUFON LA chapter. And we said, didn't we just meet a few months earlier in San Francisco? And we did. So, Race, let's bring in my friend Camille Harman. There she is. Hello there.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
That's very sweet. So, do you remember you and I met? We met at UFO Con.
You know, I do now, but I had forgotten that. See, you made a bigger impression on me at MUFON, and so that's what I remembered about my memory. I swear, between menopause and other things.
Well, listen, most women don't find me that memorable, Camille. You're in very good company. No, you and I. At UFO Con, I was promoting my book after they came, and I believe you and Jeff, your husband, were in the corner there, and we spoke quite a bit that weekend. But then when I saw you like 4 months later with Earl at MUFON LA, we were like, hey, you look right, both of us, you look really familiar. And that's when we realized we had met a few months earlier. Thank you for doing my dopey show. I really appreciate it. I hope you're doing well. You have some great stories, so I just want to jump in here. First, I always ask my guests to tell us a little bit about their childhood and what their parents did, where they're from, your interests as a young person, if you want to start there.
Oh, how fun. Yeah, certainly. I had a rocky childhood. I was born to a teenage mom in Shreveport, Louisiana. She was married to my dad, but it didn't last. And so, long story short, I was adopted by my aunt and raised with her and her kids, and in Lafayette, Louisiana, and New Orleans. And so I grew up predominantly in Lafayette, Louisiana, Cajun country. Okay. And it was amazing, fun. I had the best childhood. I had a pony. I went to fantastic schools. I went to school with Salma Hayek at Academy of the Sacred Heart. That's my one name drop from my.
Interesting. That's cool.
Yeah, she was a boarding student at this big old school in the country that I was a day student there. But so 8th grade, Salma Hayek. Anyway, so I loved my upbringing. I was kind of raised Catholic, but not real serious. I was always interested in the paranormal. I had weird dreams. I had weird fears. All my fears were paranormal. And I had obsessions with watching shows like Land of the Lost with the Slee Stacks, which scared the heck out of me, and Creature from the Black Lagoon. So I had all these early indicators. All the things I was afraid of as a kid were paranormal things, and things like anything reptilian, snakes, lizards, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Also, praying mantises freaked me out as a child, and that's very interesting because I saw a being that might have morphed into a mantis. But anyway, so I had early indicators, afraid of the closet, afraid of hanging my arm off the bed, something would grab me, those kinds of things. But I have no conscious memory of anything in childhood regarding this topic.
Interesting. Okay, that's interesting. Now, you're a very accomplished actress. When did you get the acting bug? Like, was that in school?
Well, when I was in school, I had the pony, and then my dad gave me another horse, a grown horse, when I was older. And I'm at this school, Academy of the Sacred Heart. They actually had an equestrian program, and I had my horse at school, which was really cool.
That is
and and so I was a horse girl. And then in college, I was still into horses, and then I moved to Richmond, Virginia, and wanted to go into acting, and I started acting living up there and doing theater. And then I got an assistantship to the University of New Orleans, and I went back to Louisiana and got my MFA in New Orleans and started doing television, music videos. I did an early demo pilot for Brandon Tartikoff, who was living there at the time.
That's
that was
great.
a great star. Yeah, and he cast me in his demo pilot, and he was really sweet. So I had some good luck there. I had my SAG card and some credits by the time I graduated. And my boyfriend and I at the time had just done Richard III. And that's when we decided in 1995 to move to LA. And then everything changed.
Very cool. Yeah, you're very interesting. You don't have the normal, background, climbing trees and playing baseball. You were doing other avant-garde things, and it shaped who you are. Are you a good cook? You probably cook really tremendous New Orleans dishes or something, right?
I do like to cook, and I can make seafood gumbo and things like that, but I'm always on a diet. So, oh my gosh, my poor family has to put up with all my, like, well, now we're just eating meat. Okay. Before that, we're vegan. I'm like, okay. They're just like, oh, we'll eat what we want. You do your thing. So, yeah.
If you ever want to make me some seafood gumbo, I would be glad to try that.
It's like $100 to get all the ingredients made. It's good.
Okay, well, we'll discuss that offline. Okay, so you said some very cool images from some of your projects. And Race, if you can hear me, can we please show slide number 2? Okay, so this is you in a big film called Vice. On the far right there is Steve Carell. Why don't you tell us just a little bit about your role in this movie, Vice?
In this movie, I was cast for being a good enough lookalike for Mary Madeline, who was Dick Cheney's counselor to the vice president, and she was counselor to the president, Bush. And so she was needed in the story, which was about Dick Cheney, because she was with him on 9/11 when all that happened. So they didn't need James Carville, but they needed her because she was part of that story at that time. And we did do some scenes on 9/11 when they all ran down into the bunker and, were figuring out what to do. And Bush was in Florida, right? So it was all Dick Cheney running the show on 9/11. So there was a lot of that. It was really fun. I got to work with Adam McKay, who's a genius, and Christian Bale. They're all geniuses. I was so excited.
Yeah, that was a very high profile project. Just FYI, so I'm working on a screenplay for my book After They Came, and my lead character Camille, in my dream life, it would be played by Steve Carell. So if you're still friends with him, we can talk later. I want to get him a copy of my book somehow. But no, congratulations. That was a very big movie, and you were terrific. I saw that film. Race number 3, please. Tell us about Tiger Lily.
Tiger Lily is a fun short that my friend Katie, who's seen there in the pigtails, she wrote and directed and produced it. And she wrote it for the two of us to play together. So it was funny. It won lots of awards too. She put it in all these festivals all over the world. And I won 3 Best Actress in a Comedy Short for that role, actually. I think it was India and Greece and some other Dubai. So that was really great. And we did it together downtown, and I played this hotel concierge, and she's checking in, right? And only she has an invisible cat. And so I start to kind of wonder about her, and I don't quite know what to do with her and her invisible cat. And so it proceeds into chaos, and it's a fun little short.
I'll have to, I imagine that's on streaming, right? I could find that on streaming.
Katie Roush directed it.
Yeah.
I don't know where it is at the moment.
Maybe YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's on Venmo, but that's password protected. I'm not Venmo, Vimeo. I was going to mix up Vimeo. It's password protected. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how you see it now, but I can ask her.
All right, everybody who's watching this show, let's all check out Tiger Lily. All right, race number 4, please. This looks pretty intense there, Camille. This is called The Sisters. Tell us about this one.
Yes, this one was a Chapman College, Dodge Chapman down in Orange County.
Yes.
Graduate production for a great director who shot B-roll. This was James Joyce's The Sisters, based on the famous short story by James Joyce from Ireland. So he actually went to Ireland and shot B-roll. I wish I'd gotten to go to Ireland, but we shot our scenes down at the college. And so it was a beautiful version of this famous short story by James Joyce about a priest and his sisters. And it's a very sad tale, but it's beautifully written. I had a great time on it.
It looks like a very intense drama there, based on your faces, the two of you.
Yes.
Okay, race number 5, please. So here's a very crappy quality of a very cool photo. This is you with Robert Downey, and tell us how and where you met Robert Downey.
Well, I was attending an event by Catholic Media. There's a Catholic media group that gives out awards every year, and so she was at that award ceremony with her husband receiving an award.
Oh yeah, her husband is what's his name? I met him. What's his name again?
Mark Burnett.
Right. I met the two of them once at a play. Yeah,
That's
a cool picture. You almost look like you're like at a family reunion, like your cousins or something. I love that picture.
Well, I'm Irish descent, and she's Irish, so maybe that's it.
That must be what you have there in common. Okay, now this next one we have to talk about, race number 6. So there's you with Jesus Christ. That's pretty good, Camille.
Yeah, well, again, I know how to get into the good stuff. So I had this wonderful experience once because, Jonathan Rumi, who plays Jesus, before The Chosen, he would do the Passion play at the church down in Santa Monica every year. And the woman who normally played Mary couldn't do it one year. And they had auditions. I got invited to audition to play Mary, the mother of Jesus. And so we did this incredible audition. He took so much time with me, and he was like laying in my lap, and I was weeping. It was this whole pietà thing. And and when I first met him, when he came in the room, I was like, oh my God, no wonder you played Jesus every year. Oh my God.
He's so incredibly
perfect for the role, and his energy was like gigantic when he walked in the room. He was the sweetest guy. So I had that really fantastic experience of auditioning. I didn't get it, but I auditioned for that with him, and then later, there was in The Chosen doing so well. So I was an early investor on The Chosen at the very low level, but very happy to support that show. And I have another friend, Steve Shermett, who's in the show.
Oh, it's a fantastic show. I even turned on my mother to that show. I have sent her all 4 seasons on DVD. My little Jewish mother from Brooklyn, who's just turned 90. When's the next season of Chosen, Danny? Where's my Jesus movie? She loves it. She loves it. I love it. My daughter loves it. It's a fantastic show.
Yes.
And that's very cool. Do you still know him? Does he go to your church still?
No, he wasn't going to my church. I had a couple of famous people that were going to my church, Eduardo Verastegui and Alejandro Monteverde, who made Sound of Freedom. They were going to my church when it was in West Hollywood, and but now it keeps moving, my church. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, I don't only do like Catholic things, but I do look for things that are, of that realm. I have done one Catholic film about, Catholicism, and it was fun to be in a biblical film. We shot that up in Santa Clara. Yeah.
That's terrific. Race number 7, please. So that's you and your husband with Vince Vaughn. That's a great pair. It looks like your husband and Vince Vaughn are like cousins or brothers or something.
I know, they're
right?
so tall.
Yeah,
we met at that was a premiere of a film he was in with Florence Pugh. I think it was called like Fight for the Fight with the Family or something. It was a wrestling movie and it was so funny. Oh my gosh, it was hilarious. So that was the night that we met Vince Vaughn. Yeah. That was during Vice. I had a publicist.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know you then, but I did hire a publicist so that I could go to events because, Vice was in so many awards. It had got so many awards that I wanted to do award season and go to events.
What was Vince Vaughn? Is he a nice guy? Did you have a nice time with him?
He was great. Yeah. I mean, I just met him briefly and took a picture. Yeah.
I really like that picture a lot. Okay, now we're going to jump ahead here, Camille. Here, now we're going to get into the heavy stuff. In December '95, you had just come to LA from the New Orleans area, obviously, and you had your first UFO encounter. Please tell me about that. What happened that day?
Yeah, well, there was kind of this weird transition because right before I moved, I brought props. I brought props. Look,
I love props.
I bought this. Put it in the frame. Breakthrough by Whitley Strieber in New Orleans right before I left town, and I read it, and I was mesmerized. The face compelled me to buy it at the bookstore. And I had heard of Communion, and I never read it, but I'd seen the movie because I like Christopher Walken. So I knew a little bit about him, and I just thought, oh my God, that guy's still writing about aliens. I wonder what he thinks now. And I bought the book, and it just, I was obsessed from that book. I was like, okay, this is the most exciting thing I've ever read in my life. And we moved to LA, and everything was going great. And I had a day job, and an agent, and I was like all hot stuff, like, woo, I'm going to take on the town, and same with my boyfriend, and everything was going great. And then I started having all these weird symptoms, like physical symptoms of anxiety, and I had no menstrual cycle for months. And so we moved there in September '95, but by December I still had no period, and I was like,
and you weren't pregnant.
Well, this is what's weird. I was on the pill,
right?
And usually, if I was ever like a week late, I would run to the store and get, a pregnancy test and just take it just to ease my mind.
Right.
I never did that. Like I could have done that, but why didn't I do that? Something made me just keep waiting and waiting and waiting for months. And that's not normal. Anyway, I had so much anxiety, in the December time frame, and I didn't know where it was coming from. I remember we were walking the dog in Silver Lake where we lived. And we had this huge view of the sky. We lived on a hill in Silver Lake. And our dog saw this squirrel that ran up a tree. And so we were looking up at the palm tree with this nest of squirrels in it. And our dog was going crazy. Okay. And then we saw the UFO. And it was broad daylight. And it was like very high, stationary, sitting there. And it was black. And it was so high up, I couldn't even really tell what shape it was. It had a shimmer, like now I know people call it like a plasma shimmer, or something.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
An indefinite edge, right? And we just looked at it, and Eric was teasing me. He said, "You and your UFO books. I wonder if we're seeing a UFO." And we kind of looked at each other, and I said, "Well, what if we are? What if it is a UFO?" And then we looked back, and it was gone. And we had this huge, it couldn't have gone that fast, because we had the whole sky in view. And we were like, where'd it go?
Was it large? Was it large? Was it large?
It was large, but it was very high. So I can't tell you how big it was. It was way high where planes fly. Okay. And it was just sitting there, and it was black. I want to say it was a triangle, but I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
And anyway, so I handed him the leash, and I ran home, and I looked in the phone book, and the phone book had a UFO hotline for MUFON.
Wow.
And
really?
I called, and I said, "Oh my God, I just saw a UFO over somewhere. Like, what do I do?"
Wow.
And this guy, Bill, at the time, was answering the phone. And he said, well, you can file a report, and which I actually didn't do all the way, apparently, because I looked it up in the database and I couldn't find it, but I thought I did. But he said, we have these meetings at the Pickwick Center in Burbank if you want to come, because we have guests come every month. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm there. Totally there. So I started going to the MUFON meetings. I think it was probably January.
Of 96.
One. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you made I don't know if you know this story. When I was 13, I saw a UFO with my father.
Yeah.
Silver V. It's my story, obviously, but
it's a great story.
It's a great story. And then when we came home, we saw it. It was up there. I was jumping up and down. You know the story. And he looked at it, but poured to tears. And then we went home. So I ran home into this just reminded me, I ran into my kitchen, Camille. I had a rotary. This is March 1970. We had a rotary phone. So I said, hi, my name is Danny. I'm 13. I just saw a UFO with my father above my neighborhood. And the lady said to me, Sonny, I can't talk to you right now. We're getting hundreds of phone calls about this. I have to go. I'm very sorry. I remember that's what the lady said. That's
a great validation.
Yeah, but I think you and I are the only people I know who ever called in a UFO sighting in the moment.
Yeah, as soon as I could get home, I did. Yeah,
I did too.
Yeah,
that's very cool. Now things progressed from there. I know you've been an abductee, but I don't know all the details. Do you want to talk about some of your abduction experiences?
Yeah, I want to keep it really short, and I hate doing that because, a lot of people really want the gory details, but there's so many, and there's so much more to what happened in my life besides the abductions, because the abductions only happened in 1996 and 97.
Okay.
And it stopped. So, it's way back. Anyway, so long story short, I went to I have another prop. I went to this MUFON meeting with Kim Carlsberg.
Oh yeah. Okay. She's good friends. She's friends with Steve Bassett. I'd never met her yet.
Contact in the Desert this year was so awesome. And she had such a wild story about her, and she was in Hollywood too, working in Hollywood, and she had abductions. And at the end of her talk, I was like shaking. There was something in me, and I was beside myself. And her book had a checklist in the back. You might have been abducted if you have these symptoms. And I had most of the symptoms in her book. I'm standing at the table.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm one of these people. Oh my God. And I was introduced to Barbara Lamb. Made an appointment with her, went for my first regression, and I said, Barbara, I want to target that night. I didn't tell you about December. I have to go back. So that's how it started. In December, after I walked the dog and saw the UFO, right after that, I had this experience waking up in my bed when my boyfriend was in the living room, and I was in a state of sleep paralysis. And I had that before, very occasionally, but I had never had it like this night. This night, it was very weird. I had other associated phenomena. So I came into this sleep paralysis awake state, and at the same time, I saw a flash of a gun in my face, like not in real life, but like a vision of a gun pointed at my face. And I heard this like computer sounding voice say my name in my ear. So this little voice went, Camille, I'm seeing this gun and I'm paralyzed. I'm like, what the heck? I was terrifying.
This is the night that you saw the UFO with the dogs.
I didn't correlate it exactly, but it was the same time frame, the same month. I don't know the exact day.
Okay.
So then, my boyfriend came back into the bed, and it happened again the same night, and he heard me crying, and he woke up, and so I wanted to know about that night. So I did this regression with Barbara, and what I got was this blue light came through my ceiling. It was very solid. It was like a turquoisey blue, and it was like a column of light. It wasn't like a spotlight that spreads out. It was like, I don't know how to explain it. It was like a column. And when it hit me, I curled up into a fetal position in my memory, and I went through the ceiling, and I opened up on a table in this misty white room with I couldn't see any cabinets or walls, just white mistiness. And I was on the table, and I was terrified. And there was, I said, everybody's looking at me. Everybody's looking at me. And she said, who's looking at me? And I said, I don't know. And she made me look, and I looked, and I saw this row of beings. They were tall, thin, long arms. They had high collar white robes on and some kind of pendant kind of thing at the solar plexus area that was like I want to say a triangle in a circle, kind of something.
Would you say they were Pleiadians?
I don't know. I
Or
didn't talk.
tall whites? Were they tall grays?
Well, they look like tall, skinny grays. They had the big
Tall
head,
grays. Yeah,
and
tall grays.
they had the big wraparound black eyes, but they were misty, and then one appeared between my legs. My legs started opening, and she said, "What's going on?" And I said, "I have a baby, and they want it." And I just knew it. Anyway, there was one at my legs. Then I saw an instant flash of a speculum, like a gynecological speculum.
Yes.
Terrified. And then she said, "You can pop up out of your body and remember this from above." And I did that. And this being I couldn't see, that was like cloaked from my awareness, put that thing in me and very quickly took it out. And there was a little tiny piece of a fetus of some kind. I don't mean piece, I mean the entire fetus. And I could barely see it through the slats of it was like an egg whisk, if you could imagine it, with thick slats. And
okay.
And then he just walked out of the room with it, and I was like, I was horrified, and I was weeping, and I was like, they didn't even let me see it. And it's just, I was hysterical. And Barbara brought me out of the regression, and what do you do with that? I mean, she comforted me, and I went home with my little cassette, and I made Eric listen to it. And he was like, "Oh my God." It was the
so you would not have remembered it had you not been regressed. It wasn't there.
Well, no, and it was so emotional. It was more emotional than anything I've ever experienced in my actual life, like falling off a horse, whatever. Like it was so off the charts, and it matched my body. Like it matched, because my menstrual cycle came right back in January after that happened. And I was so. I tried to justify it. Like, what could this be like something else? Like people would say, "Oh, well, you must have had an abortion and you feel guilty, so it's like an abortion thing." And I'm like, "But I never had an abortion, so that doesn't make sense." So it seemed like it was real to me. So, I mean, I told my family, and my mother she didn't know what to do with me. She loves me, and I was like the golden child. And she said, I don't know how to deal with this. She goes, "Why can't you be gay like your brother? I know how to be gay."
At least that I could understand. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I asked my uncle, who worked for NASA, who's a rocket scientist, who worked under Werner von Braun.
What did he say?
He told me, "I don't know anything, and if it's true, it's NSA, and they're never going to tell you, and you just have to get over it."
How many months had you not had your period for? 6 months?
No, like 3 or 4, like September through December.
So the premise is, and I totally believe you, just so you know, the premise would be you were impregnated by extraterrestrials maybe in August, September, and then they took the fetus out in December. So there's only a 3 or 4 month gestation period, right? And I don't have any memory of the August or September, implantation or whatever event. We did camp when we were moving from New Orleans. We did go camping in Sedona at Oak Creek. So maybe you got picked up there. Well, they must have. Yeah. Because when you saw the UFO with the dog and the squirrels, it might have been its return to come get your fetus. It might have been like, "Hey,
wait a minute. Did you say Oak Creek?"
Yes.
Oh my God.
That's a place.
Well, yeah, absolutely. My wife and I were there. We were on our way to UFO Congress, and we had made a bunch of plans to stop at different places, right? And we were going through there at like 2 a.m, and we were going over this little hill, and all of a sudden, the whole ground around us lit up like high noon.
Whoa.
Like a massive, gigantic spotlight just hit our truck as we were going over the top of this little knob, this little hill, right at Oak Creek at 2:35 in the morning. Freaky. And all of a sudden it was high noon, and then it just blinked right off again.
There's a lot of activity there. There's a lot of military abduction activity there too, with underground bases.
We just looked at each other and kept going. We didn't stop. I didn't look back. I didn't, you know what I mean? But that was a wild thing. And I didn't tell that story again until just now, and that was in 2018. I'm glad I triggered you, Race. I'm glad I triggered you. 2018. Okay, let me get out of your way.
Great.
That's a good story. That's a really good story. Okay, so first, right off the bat, that's a remarkable story. But do you want to share, and whatever you want to share, Camille, is fine. Are there any other abduction,
Yeah,
96, 97, before we get to your other stuff?
96. So 96, I was going to see my friend at the beach, my boyfriend. It was the summer, it was July. And he got a job back in New Orleans shooting a series. And so he went away for a week and I was sleeping alone. And I woke up every night for some reason for 3 nights in a row at 4 a.m. sharp with the digital clock saying 400. And I was looking at the clock saying, I didn't hear anything. Why am I awake? What's going on? And the third morning I got in the tub to shave. I looked down at my leg and had this like freshly scabbed triangular puncture array on my calf. And I started screaming. And I said, that is some alien thing. I've seen it in some show because I was watching on the shows like the Learning Channel and just, I was watching all that. I said, I saw that in the show or a book or something. And I'm digging for it and I found it in a book. And I have since then met so many people who've had that exact mark, the 3 little pinpricks in the triangular shape. And so I did a regression to that with Barbara Lamb because I was curious to just go to a different person and see what would happen. I love Barbara. I love Yvonne. I just like to experiment. So with Yvonne, she put me down underneath, under hypnosis. And I remembered going up the blue light, but this time it took me out the window. So I didn't go straight up. I went out the window, which was interesting. And then I was on a table in a room with the beings. But this time it wasn't misty. It was like a regular lighting. And there was a tall one with the white robe and the big black eyes. And there were 3 little ones that had wrinkly heads. And I could only see the tops of their heads. And I had started substitute teaching at the time. Because Bashar, the guy, Daryl Anko channels Bashar, told me I had many children on the ships. And I would get more acclimated to my children on the ships if I worked with children. So I went off and I became a substitute teacher for 9 years.
Interesting.
So I had this experience teaching where these little kids had come up to me, 3rd graders, one day, and they were pulling me to a cabinet to show me where something was. And they were all grabbing my arms and walking me to this cabinet. And my whole body just went, oh! I had a cellular memory event. And I kept it together. I was working, but I was like, deja vu, man, like deja vu. And so anyway, I was yelling at these 3 wrinkly aliens. You make me scared of little kids because you look like little kids, but you're not little kids. And I was crying. And then one of them put its hand on my forehead like this, started doing this. And I said, get your freaking hand off me, you little bastard. And
were you saying those things out loud or were you thinking that?
No, I was saying that. I was freaking out, screaming. Yeah. But then when he did that, it calmed me. Like it instantly melted on my anger. And I just got real passive. And I just was still crying, but I was like whimpering. And I just said, do what you got to do and let me go home, And I was just sedated. And then the big tall one took this wand out of the ceiling like a dentist, from a rack of something and put this tip on it. And he popped that little triangle in my leg. And that's all I know. I don't know if it was a vaccination. I don't know. It didn't have an object. I had it x-rayed later. There was no object. Dr. Lear had it, he looked at it and then I was sent to another guy through MUFON and he did an x-ray. So anyway, nothing, I don't know what that was, but that was that memory. And then the weirdest thing of all, I'll try to tell quickly, is my dentist found this object in my tooth when he was switching out all my fillings. He put these white ones in and I love them, but one of them was hurting. So I went back to him. And he said, well, I don't know why it's hurting. I'll dig it out and do it again. So he found this, he called it a spherical or hemispherical dark gray mass in my tooth. And he said, this was not there when I put that filling in. I don't know what it is. Because I told him I was an abductee. We have that photo. We'll get to that photo in a few minutes. Do you still have that? Do you have the tooth? The actual tooth? No, I don't have. I mean, it's in my tooth. It's in my mouth. I never had the tooth removed. But he dug out what he could, and he asked me what I should do. And I said, can you get a piece of it? And he said, no, it's too hard. I have to keep the water spraying on it, and it's just like powderizing. And I said, I don't know. I said, just put the new filling in, and I'll think about it. So he did that, and pain stopped. So the new filling fixed it. But I did regression, right? Because I was curious. And what I have in the slides is a letter from my dentist, and then I retyped it because he had handwritten it.
Right. I have that.
I have a very recent X-ray that I asked for of that area, and I circled what looks like a little dome inside that tooth still of whatever was left. But so the regression I did there with Barbara. Very shocking. I thought I was going to get aliens, but lo and behold, I come to in the memory. I'm already on a table in a regular exam room with cabinets, shelves, door. Only it's two guys. It's two humans wearing lab coats and khaki pants and black shiny shoes. And they are calling me a troublemaker. I don't know which one said it, but that was the only word I got from them. I didn't get any other dialogue, just the word troublemaker. And then one of them put a syringe into my cheekbone and squirted something right into my tooth. It wasn't like a dental thing from inside the mouth. It was like this way. And I felt really drugged too, by the way, before he did that. So in the alien memories, I was really alert. I was just immobilized. But in this military abduction, whatever that was, I felt drugged. And so they rolled me down a hall on a gurney and then into this big hangar where there was a helicopter, a black helicopter. I know it's very cliche. And the ceiling opened and they flew me home. Not them, but the pilot flew me home in broad daylight into my Silver Lake neighborhood, landed in this field. That's still a field. I went there recently. It's still a field. And told me to go home and take a nap. And I was just horrified. And I felt so much betrayal and terror and paranoid. That was scarier than the aliens in a way, because it was like, oh my God, my own people. And the concept, if I didn't remember that, and that really happened, then what the hell else happened to me that I don't remember? It was just very disturbing.
So there were only three major events that you regressed and you recalled. There may have been 33 more that you don't. That
right,
you just
right. I mean, you only know what you go digging for. It's like my husband's an astrologer. He's like, I can only, I have to look at the data and see what it says, but I can't look into the whole time and space. You have to give me a target to look at, right? So you know what you go looking at. So that's what I looked at. I don't know what else has happened, but I had this one amazing experience with light beings, and that's my happy story. So I don't want to not get to that because that was the good story out of all of the scary stories.
Oh yeah, let's do that one.
Okay.
Or was that 97?
That was in 97 because that's what it was before I went to Roswell, and then the following year I went to England. So yeah, it was in 97 also. What happened with that was I caught myself saying things like, oh, humans this, humans that. And I had this feeling like I wasn't human, or I was identifying with a group that wasn't human that I was okay with or something. I don't know. It was a weird feeling. And I had longing. That's how I explained it to Barbara. I said, Barbara, I have this longing for beings that I don't know who I miss, but I miss somebody. I don't think it's the ones that had me on the table, And can we target that? I was like, is that too vague? She said, no, let's do it. So she targeted that. I had this full-on out-of-body experience. Like I had a hypnotically induced out-of-body, which was wild. And the first thing I felt was panic. I felt like I was being stuffed, like a sofa being stuffed into a pillowcase. And I started screaming, I don't want to be in this body. It's so weak. I was like terrified and horrified to be in this body. And she said, go to where you felt strong, where you felt happy. And I popped out and I was in space, like in the void or space, whatever. And I was a blue light. I was a blue light orb. And I recognized my two friends that were orbs that were blue lights. And I was crying and I was looking at Earth, and Earth was spinning, and I didn't want to look at it. And I always joke. So the flat earthers, in my memory, the Earth was spinning. It was a globe. I don't know if it's flat. I don't know if it's a globe, but in my memory, I didn't have the flat Earth concept back then. It was spinning. So I'm looking at Earth and I'm scared, and it was like being on a diving board, and I was panicking, and I was saying, I don't want to go to Earth. And Barbara said, why do you have to go to Earth? And I said, I don't know. And she said, well, see if there's someone you can ask. So I just asked, and I'm like, why do I have to go to Earth? And then these white light beings, these gigantic white light beings appeared, and they were so mesmerizing and beautiful. And I just started crying. I was like, oh, they're my home. They're my family. And I was merging. It was this merging oneness, bliss, ecstasy, like total ecstasy, like they describe in religious ecstasy like the saints when they're levitating and they're in ecstasy, something like that. It was just amazement. And I said, that's why I wear a white robe. I had a white bathrobe. I was like, I used to have robes. I felt like I was one with them at some point. I was with them. I don't know if I was one of them I don't know, but I was with them. They were my home. I said, they're my home. And anyway, with all the crying, and I was like, why do I have to go to Earth? And they said, to fight evil. And I said, oh, wow.
That's a good mission to have.
What do I do? Talk,
How?
lecture about you? And they said, tell people we exist and that we love them. And they gave me this beautiful vision of light coming from God, like from space somewhere, through them to us. And she said, we're always here sending you love. And you guys are walking around like with umbrellas. And we're always trying to like catch you. It was such a great image, like a video game almost.
That's fabulous.
And I said, okay, well, like, do I lecture about you? And they said, no, you're still supposed to act. And I was like, okay, because they don't make many movies about, good stuff. You sure?
Not yet. Not yet. Well, hopefully the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, hopefully we'll change that. Just real quick. You're coming to our HDA holiday party on December 14th. So there's a guy coming, Camille. His name is Mark Glenn Moore. Okay. I interviewed him earlier this year. He has been he has a relationship with Pleiadians since the age of 5, and he's like in his 60s now. And they changed his life, and he describes them exactly. Beautiful light beings. You look at them and you cry. They're so beautiful. So I'm going to introduce you to Mark because the two of you might be related somehow.
Yeah. So I don't know what they were, who they were, but they told me many things, and it was very interesting because they said, we will set it up so that you meet people and make projects worthy of your time. I was like, yes, thank you. Wow. Twist my arm, sign me up. And the very next film I did, even though it was just a little short at USC, was called The Encounter. And it was about a man who has an angelic encounter in the form of a homeless person that he hits with his car. And so the very next film, it was so neat. So anyway, fast forward, that was awesome. So then I was more open-minded about this whole thing, like this is quite complex. It's not just the scary beings that have you on the table and the military guys. It's also that. So I focused on that, and I went to Roswell. I had a great time. I got those great pictures from White Sands okay, so we took pictures.
You want to show those? You want to show those now?
Yeah, and
Wait, hold on, because I numbered them. Race number 9. Would you jump ahead? 19. That's a White Sands Camille picture. 19, please.
Oh my God! Hang on, Dan. Let me go back. Hang on. Let me go back here and look. I'm actually missing the 19th picture.
Well, there might be another. There were 2 I sent.
Race, there were 2 zip files. I sent you 2 zip files. The first one.
I'm gonna go right back here and look. Just give
zip file number 2 had the ladder numbers.
Can I talk while he's looking?
Yes, absolutely.
Tell the story. So we stopped at White Sands, and Roswell was great. I mean, John Mack, everybody was there. It was amazing. Whitley.
We were at the 50th anniversary. Yeah,
it was awesome. And anyway, so on the way home, we stopped at White Sands, and Don Waldrop, we drove together. He was the head of MUFON LA at the time. And he had a good camera, and he said, hey, you got to get out and run out in the sand, and I'll take a picture. And so I got up on the dunes, and he said, draw a big alien face. And so I drew a big alien face with my foot. And then he said, call the aliens, or, I don't know, he was prompting me. And so I was just being theatrical. And I was like, I dare you to come down here, you bastards. There you are. I'm like, I dare you to come down here. See the big alien face?
Yeah, so you drew that in the sand, and then that white thing above you is a UFO.
Yeah? And I got 2 pictures like that of these light anomalies right where I was looking and yelling, but I didn't know at the time. I didn't see them, and we didn't know until we downloaded the pictures later.
Yeah, number 20. It looks like a little squiggle.
Yeah. So that was something that, I didn't see at the time, but it showed up in the camera. It was so cool. So that happened. I have another UFO picture I got in Sedona with my mom. Same thing. Right. We took it, and we didn't know about it. We didn't see it at the time. It showed up down
race 21. Race number 21.
That was years later. That was, see the little UFO on the right-hand bottom? Bottom on the right. Yeah.
It looks like a flying saucer, right?
Yeah. It had like a black bottom and a red light on the top and this mist in between. So that was a cool catch.
You didn't see that until after the fact, right?
No, but I was with my mom, and I think she took the picture. And I was with another friend who was very metaphysical and also an experiencer. She was driving. She actually married us, me and Jeff. She was the officiant in our wedding. And she was an experiencer that I met through Barbara Lamb and everybody.
Very
So
cool.
yeah, we just caught a UFO on the camera. So anyway, I know we don't have a lot of time, but so then I went to England to see the crop circles, and I'll tell the story of how.
Well, hold on. Camille, hold on. Race, can you? Because I have. Listen, we're jumping all over the place. Race, do you have number 9 by any chance? Number 9. Remember the Beatles song? All right, here you go. There's Barbara Lamb in the crop circle. All right,
yes,
Camille,
with her dowsing rods.
Tell us about crop circle.
Okay, so crop circles are amazing and they're legit. So don't buy that they're hoaxes. There are hoax ones, yes, of course. But there are real ones, and the real ones have very interesting phenomena, like little metal spheres that form of iron, bent stalks, strange anomalies above the air above them, like birds won't fly over them, they'll go around them, things like that. They found mummified animals in them, like they've had all the moisture sucked out of them in an instant. Wow. All kinds of very interesting things. So they're amazing. So Barbara Lamb took me to my first crop circle, and I'd been in England a few more days before that, and I was obsessed with Sting. So I went out to see Sting's house in the country right near Stonehenge, and I saw Sting standing in the driveway, and I couldn't even move. Anyway, I met him several times. He was very nice, but that time I couldn't even.
Very cool. Very cool. Race number 10.
Yeah. So when she took me to this crop circle,
That's
and
you.
Then
That's
we saw,
you.
that was another one. That was a different day.
Sting. Yeah, Sting.
Yeah,
there you go.
Sting t-shirt on. But when we looked at the aerial photo of the one that was my first, they ended up giving it the nickname the Stingray because it was shaped like a giant stingray with the tail, with the curve. And I thought, what are the odds that my first crop circle would have that name? Because that's totally a gift for me. I thought. Yeah.
Did you ever talk to Sting about UFOs?
Yes, I did.
Did you? Yeah. Yes. What did he have to say?
He had seen one. It's in a book by Christopher Sanford about him, a biography, and that's how I knew he had seen one. And he's also seen a ghost. And he had a woman that they were going to put a pool in their property right out there by Stonehenge, and they found this buried woman from like hundreds of years prior who had been wrapped in chains. She was like a slave or something, who'd been buried on their property. And so they found they were digging for the pool or the pond or whatever. So he's very metaphysical. He's very into the crop circles. So, but anyway, so that was an amazing gift, my crop circle adventure. And I
would love to do that. That sounds really cool. You've met some very famous ufologists. Race number 11. This is an old picture here of you with David Icke.
Oh, yeah. See, I was into all this stuff from 1995 on. So I went to see David Icke speak at the old Conscious Life Expo.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was
how old are you there? How old are you there? Like 12? You look like you're 12 years old.
No, that was around 1995 or 96. So I was like 30-ish.
Really? God, you're so young there, Camille. It's incredible.
I was. I know. That was back when I was like 102. And and so I was awake, and I was awake to a lot of dark things from that far back. So the reptilians and the underground stuff and all that, whatever. So yeah, there's good and bad and ugly in this phenomenon, as you know. So we're trying to figure it all out.
And then race number 12. Here's some news. So was that this year or last year?
That was last year. Chris Bledsoe, I met in February or March of February, I guess, at Alien Con in Pasadena in 2023. And he really shifted me. He's really helped me come out of fear and be more open to the good beings, and that it's okay to be a Christian and look at this and be open-minded and consider it broadly. Because for a while I dropped out of ufology and I just went to church. I thought it was all demonic, and I went through this period where I just went to mass, and I just didn't want anything to do with it. I thought it was demonic. And so he was part of my awakening back to being like, okay, I think I threw out the baby with the bathwater. I think it's more complicated, and I'm going back in. And it really shifted me. So we're friends, and I saw him again at Contact in the Desert. But that was when I first met him.
Did you read? I read that book this summer. It was really good. Did you read the book?
Oh yeah.
The white lady. What do you think the white lady is? You think it's God?
Well, he describes it almost as a Hathor symbolism figure from Egypt.
Okay.
I don't know. There seems to be this white lady that appears many times to many cultures. The Iroquois have a star being lady that appears to them. And actually, the figure on the Capitol. I went to Washington D.C. recently, a year ago, and we did the Capitol tour. And the being on top of the Capitol is actually this Iroquois star being lady that appears to them. That's who they put on top of the Capitol. Just so you know.
Interesting. Wow, that's cool. We have a couple more minutes. Race number 13, please. 13. All right, so this is awesome. Tell us about this.
Well, that's the drawing from my first abduction memory when the fetus was removed. And those were the beings I saw lined up in a row, not the one working on me, but the ones lined up in a row telling me to calm down and it would be okay. And that's what they appeared like to me.
And it was all telepathic, correct? They didn't move their mouths. It was all you could understand what they were telling you.
That's the doctor that did the triangle mark on my leg, and that is showing. Oh, at one point he morphed and he had these antennae on his head for a second, and that really freaked me out. I was saying, it looks like an ant. So I don't know his true form, and I don't know if that's a frequent thing, but it looked like this tall gray thing, but then it kind of morphed into more insectoid looking. So
you think he might be your praying mantis?
It might be a mantis. Maybe I just interpreted it incorrectly. I have no idea.
So this is you having your poor fetus removed, right?
Well, they just popped that wand onto my calf and made that mark. Yeah.
How awful! That's just how awful. I'm so sorry that had to happen to you. I just watched, Camille, last night, the Manhattan Alien Abduction miniseries. Do you know about this?
I want to watch it. I've been really busy this week.
It's three or four part. It's on Netflix. The Manhattan Alien Abduction. It's called. Our friend Peter Robbins is one of the hosts of the show. I just watched it, and they floated. Apparently, this woman floated through her ceiling.
Yeah, I read the book. Linda Cortiel. She's going against Netflix. Actually, in a lawsuit, I heard. But it's based on her story that Bud Hopkins wrote a book, Witnessed, about.
Yeah, they actually went to the New York Supreme Court to try to stop it from being premiered.
Right.
Yeah, well,
it's basically Bud Hopkins' ex-wife doing a hit piece on it.
Right, Carol, right.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know all the scoop, but I heard there's some drama. But yeah, I'll probably watch it. And yeah, I know the story. As a matter of fact, I told Anne Rice about that book. Anne Rice was obsessed with aliens as well. And there's a lot of crossover between the vampire myth and the alien abduction scenario.
Oh, that's funny you said that, Camille. Next week on my show is Lynn Lugosi Sparks. Her grandfather was Bela Lugosi.
Wow.
Dracula. So I'm having Dracula's.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome.
Dracula's granddaughter is my ghost. Wow. Is my guest ghost a week from tonight. Real quick, we have a couple more. Raise 15. Let's see, that's a spot on your back, on your shoulder.
I never did a regression to that. My boyfriend noticed it on my shoulder one day and took a picture. I don't know where I got that, but it's a grid. And again, I've seen that particular mark on many people in photos of other people.
It looks like a waffle griddle, Yeah, it looks like someone's going to make a waffle on your shoulder. All right, Race, next one. The next one. Yeah, what's this?
I woke up from a dream where I was bitten by a spider, and then I had this incision on my shoulder, and I would get these feelings like I was being stung by a bee on my shoulder, and then this jolt of electricity would go down my shoulder, my arm, and come out my fingers. And I met this guy at a party who said he could clear people that were mind control victims. And he actually said, "What have you got in your right shoulder?" He could read it on me. And I went and he did a clearing on me, and it stopped happening. That whole thing with the bee sting and the electricity stopped happening.
And you're sure that's not you or your husband scratching you by somehow? Okay. All right. Next one. Race. Next one. That's your tooth.
Yeah, and you can see the faint outline of something like a little dome-shaped shadow in there.
Yes. So that was removed, but your dentist destroyed it. It sounds like, right?
Well, he got part of it out, and then he just repacked it.
But the part that he got out, didn't you send that to MUFON to be looked at?
No, because it was like dust. He couldn't get a chunk.
I see.
And so I did have another. I can't talk. Doctor asked me if I wanted to have the whole tooth removed, and I said no. And because it stopped hurting, it's just still there. Yeah.
Okay, and then Race, next one. Maybe we can crank all these out. This is a notice that your dentist said that was unlike anything I've ever seen, right?
Yeah, he described it. He said extremely unusual. He said it was extremely difficult to drill out and did not resemble decay. He said I am unclear as to its nature. And that's by Beverly Hills Dennis. He's in Las Vegas now. He's still alive, but he was perplexed.
That's pretty good proof, Camille. I mean, if anyone says you're bat S word crazy, you have some, you have some real evidence behind you. I would love to show you a little video. Race, can we do a 20-second video, or do I have to wrap?
It's okay. People can go on my YouTube channel and watch my little video.
Oh yeah, we definitely got to wrap. We're up against it.
Okay, we got to wrap. All right. So yeah. Camille sent me a really cool. I think you were at church and you were looking up at the sky.
Yeah, I prayed to Jesus. I said, Jesus, I'm about to go talk about UFOs again at this conference, and I hope I don't make you mad. I said, if you're working with any good beings in the UFOs, I really need a sign. And then these 4 things came out and started flying around, and I got them on camera, a little tiny clip during mass. We were under a tent, and anyway, MUFON says they're birds, but I think they're orbs of some kind.
Yeah, I think and we're okay. So thank you very much for doing this dopey show for me. I really appreciate it. You're a good friend of mine. I'll see you at the party December 14th. How can people contact you?
I'm on Instagram. I'm on my website is my name, CamilleJamesHarman.com. They can go there and get all my social links or write to me through my contact page.
All right, great. Thank you so much for doing this for me. Thanks, Race. You're my brother, and I love you. Next week, Lynn Lugosi, Bela Lugosi's granddaughter. I talk about the history of Dracula and vampires. That's it for me. Live from Hollywood, it's Paranormal Tonight. Have a good week. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Camille.